Today's conversation takes place in London with director Janis Pugh about her new film, Chuck Chuck Baby. Hello, Janis Pugh. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you, Rob. Nice to be here.
Nice to meet you. And of course, you are the writer and director of Chuck Chuck Baby.
Yes.
So I explained to my mother that I was coming down to London to interview a filmmaker. She asked me what the film was. I started to explain and I realized it's about quite a few things, actually, yes. Chuck Chuck Baby. How have you been explaining it to people?
I always explain it as a love story about female love in all its forms. I never describe it as one thing or another. It's a film about the kind of beauty and brutality of life, and also it's a film that really platforms women's voices, specifically that area of North Wales, where I feel, a lot of the time we kind of look at these films and it's the working women, the women that brought me up, who kind of fail to be ever recognised, I think. So, yeah, it's a love story about women.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication to make films. And so I'm wondering, you've just touched on what the story is about. What is it about that story that made you want to dedicate potentially years of your life to getting it made?
Years, too many years. Time is ticking. Do you know what? I look back and I think to myself, there's a lot of reasons. People take time out of your career, and for me, it was a lot to do with the care aspect of people I love. And when I had time to kind of sit down, I thought to myself, this world's insane. It's crazy, and let's just make a film that is about love. But also touches on the undercurrents of certain political aspects that we're all living in, I think. And really just kind of showcasing the beautiful women that kind of brought me up in that area. And they're kind of, for me, they're inspiration to my life. And, the landscape where I come from, which is an inspiration aesthetically to me. And I just think that kind of world that started forming around 2017, 18 just got a little bit crazy for me, and I thought, I'm going to make a film about love.
Okay, you're focusing on positivity. This is nice.
I have to.
Yes.
Look at you. Good to see you. It's good to see you. You remember Helen from the home, Joe? She was at school with us.
Vaguely.
Listen to you. You sound dead posh. You do.
Casting. This is so wildly important for this film. What was that process like, and what was it that made you feel secure that your two lead actors were able to hold this love story together?
Louise was kind of, I sent her the script probably a year before COVID, actually. Okay. So she just fell in love with it and she was on board instantly. And then obviously COVID, the whole thing, and I'd spent a lot of time with Lou on Zoom and, doing things and talking about, this character Helen, who was really important to kind of talk about the aspect of music and everything else and how that works. But I mean, casting is such a strange thing because I tend to work with, my script is there, and then I cast the film along with the beautiful casting director, Becca Wright, and then I kind of shape the film to those actors and their strengths as well, because they're already brilliant. But yourself, making films is kind of, you're on time. Time is a kind of, it's a big problem. And when I got Lou together with Belle, it was bang. It was like that. Okay. And the two of them just went at it in a way of performance-wise and their energy together in a room. We had a little stilt lesson, and you could just feel the two of them were kind of bonding instantly. And I just knew they were both perfect for it.
So the chemistry was quite
It was huge,
fast.
the chemistry, yeah. Yeah, it was there instantly. And I think that's down to how they work as actors and how they got on, and down to the script. They were both so excited by the script.
So did you start rehearsals on Zoom, or no? This was further out.
This was further towards filming. I mean, we didn't have a lot of rehearsals because but we did all stay in touch. We'd done a little short for the BFI to kind of show them the world of Chuck Chuck Baby, which was where we'd got the other 3 girls as well.
Okay.
So we all stayed in touch, and we all during COVID had little Zooms and a little cheeky glass of wine or two, and we all got to know each other, and it kind of bonded us. I think all of us knew. Come to shoot the film, we'd have very limited time. We had 26 days to shoot this film. Okay. So for us, the bonding kind of sessions and the friendships kind of started during those little Zoom calls. I
mean, we're talking about how this is somewhat of a very local story. I'm wondering, as I'm watching it, I wanted to ask you, imagine it couldn't be shot in Wales. Would the story be the same, or is Wales integral to this story?
I think, for me, it's integral because of where I come from and the landscape, and the landscape itself is a character within the film. But the film, I don't think the story is local. I think it's a universal story. Love is a universal theme. So is death. Grief, all those things that we all go through. I think you could take this film and throw it in the Limousin in France, and it'd still work. With French meat packers, it's a life that people live, and it just happens to be that I'm from that area, and I feel very, in a way, romantically attached to that area in its characters and the landscape, and Flint is one of those places where it's a small town. It was a town built on industry. It was a town that was built for court halls, and it's a very working town. It's a working class town, and little by little, those local things have been taken away from it. And for me, I grew up with those women. I create a world in Chuck Chuck Baby, and in all my films, I create this world of blue overalls, because for me, it's a beautiful memory from my upbringing, and it's a form of I suppose playing homage to those incredible women.
What was the experience like filming in those places, if they are so deeply connected to your upbringing and other things? What was it like being there to shoot a film? Is it cool to go back and do that?
Oh, I love it because it's like when I told one of my friends I was shooting on the Blue Bridge, she was like, "What?" Because it's just so beautiful, and it's I used to cross that bridge, going ice skating on a Tuesday night. I'd get the bus and go off to Queen's Ferry and play around on that bridge. I love that bridge. It's beautiful. But again, it's this kind of these metaphors for me about the crossing from from rural to industry, and the fun ship, again, aesthetically beautiful, in my eyes, and I always feel very much at home when I'm shooting there, and very kind of I feel very honoured, to be honest with you, and it's for me to be showing these incredible places. Are they easy to get to? No. So if you talk to the production managers, they'll kill me, because it was a nightmare, because it's not structured for a film set or anything like that. So, and the weather gets terrible, and when that happened, what can we do but carry on?
Very authentic. Very authentic.
Don't you touch my car. Hey, put me on the gas. Stop playing around. You're not getting, don't even think about it. I'm getting in. You're not getting in. Well, you're not having the keys. I've got the keys. Nobody is getting in my car.
On the theme of identity, just a little bit further, like I say at the beginning, this film has a lot of things going on, a lot of different themes. I've seen it described as a working class story, a Welsh story, an LGBTQ plus story. For you as an artist, when you see attempts to put your film into these categories, how does that feel? And for you, is it fair to call it that, or is it something more? Is it the story just happens to contain themes?
I just think people will always put things in boxes, no matter how many times you try and, the whole film is about boxing in.
Yeah.
It's all about, if you look at the whole, if you scratch the surface of that film, it's much more than a rom-com, you know, and it's much more than just a love story. It also scratches this little undercurrent that runs through about the fencing and, you know, what happens to us when we shut people out all the time. You know, we've all got very territorial everywhere, all over the world. It's become a very strange thing. And, you know, well, however people relate to that film is good. You know, however they do it, I don't mind at all. I was in Toronto when it was screened, and there was you know, at the end of the screening, never have I imagined I had a 70-year-old girl come up to me. She was 17 years old and she was sobbing, you know, and I could see the effect that it had on her, obviously with something going on within her. And that was beautiful. And then I had a 78-year-old man come up to me and thanked me from a queer man's point of view. So, you know, however that film touches the hearts of people, I really honestly don't mind. I never intended it. It's as you will probably see in the film. It's not a huge thing that it's two women. You know, it's never made out to be anything bigger than that. It's just a simple story of love. Yeah. And if, you know, I know people say it's a Welsh film, it's a gay film, it's just a film, I think, that really has a very big heart. And whatever the audience want to take from that or how they identify to it is totally up to them.
So I went back through, again, your career, basically. I was having a look at some of the earlier things you'd done. In 2008, you made a short film called Butterfly. I was watching it. It's on YouTube, so I was having a look at that. It is indeed.
That was for ITV, wasn't it? It was for the...
It's My Shout, I think it was.
My Shout, of course it was.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Way back when. And I was looking at it. Anyway, the thing that struck me about it was just how much it's full of music. And so, of course, the thing I would like to ask you about is this sort of the power that music has in your films, obviously, from the short films you made in 2008 up to the feature films you're making right now, this is a huge part of what, I suppose, if I was going to define your filmmaking, I'd write down the word music. Yeah. So for you, what is it about music that makes it such a driving force?
I think music has such a kind of connection to us all. And, you know, I mean, if you talk about Butterfly, I think that was a kind of opera because it was sung all the way through. And then we have, you know, Blue Collars and Buttercups, which has singing in it as well. All my work has singing in it. And, you know, specifically with Chuck Chuck Baby, it's always, it's very, very important that the music, when I pick it, is part of the narrative and the characters' journeys. You know, so it informs the audience of either their backstory or their present story of what is to come. And I think I use it in a very private, personal way. And, you know, talking to the actors, I said, this is not a bursting out kind of musical. This is a very kind of subtle way, you know, as we use music in our own lives. And I think the importance of it is all about what it does to us. It's kind of, you know, when you go through grief, music play, for me personally, it's, you know, it's a huge thing. And it's, I mean, I used to sing Annie's song with my dad constantly. He loved John Denver. And it was one of those songs where we'd have a big sing out in the kitchen, you know, glass of wine, Christmas is coming, John Denver's on. And it was played at his funeral. I decided to play it at his funeral. And the song has a totally different effect on me now. You know, it's a much more personal and private song to me now. And I think this is what happens. And when I kind of put the music in the films, it really is a way of how people, whoever we are, all of us, play a song. And if our heart is broken, we play a song. And how that connects and communicates with us, you know, is that personal, private moment we have with it.
Is this part of the process from the very beginning? I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples of things I'm thinking about. If I'm writing, one thing I always end up doing is making a playlist. Yeah. Are you just thinking of songs, that seems to fit in the world of my film in my head? Do you then just save these ideas, write them into scripts? What do you do?
No, I've got I'm a great music lover. I'm the baby of 5, so I've got a catalogue from eldest siblings all the way down, and I've got a great love for, you know, lots of different kind of music. And when I'm writing, I mean, for instance, you know, if we look at, you know, Joanne's character, there was only one song that I, you know, would inform the backstory and bits of her life. So I kind of tend to have it right from the beginning. But I mean, people write in very different ways. I tend to have 100 scenes on my wall.
Where did you scamper off to? What the hell's up with you?
Do you remember me at school?
Eh? Christ, Helen. I'm not being funny, but I was hardly fucking there. Why don't you come out tonight? We're all meeting up with Joanne.
You're all right, thanks.
We'll more fool you. We'll be at the gasworks from 7. It's that time of the month. Oh, payday, you knobhead.
I would like to talk about cinema a little bit, actually. For example, I'm wondering if there's a particular cinema you went to when you were growing up, you know, any memories connected to that place and that type of experience?
Yeah, I used to go, there was a local cinema in Flint. I think it was called the Ritson, I think.
Okay.
But it closed down. I think it closed down very early 80s. And then the closest cinema we had was Chester.
Okay.
Or Real, which was quite expensive. So, you know, I didn't come from a wealthy background. I mean, I think cinema would have been a luxury probably once a month, if that. But I had a sister who worked in a video shop.
Okay.
So that's going back some time. So we always had the new films that came out. We were first to get them. You know, films I shouldn't have really been watching when I was 12 years old. But then again, I had older siblings who taunted my kind of like, this is why I'm terrified of horror films. But no, I love cinema. And then Channel 4, I remember Channel 4 opening and, you know, with the first, you know, my first French film. I remember watching and seeing The Umbrellas of Cherbourg and just going, what am I watching? I cannot believe what I'm watching. I was, you know, I think I was about 15 and it was extraordinary. And from that moment, I became a fan of probably not kind of going, oh my God, this is what I want to do. You know, reality hits in a certain way. I went to work in a chicken factory like everybody else because I had to pay keep. And then your journey moves you on. And eventually I left there and I ended up in London and I worked in restaurants and I ran my own little restaurant and, you know, which was next door to St Martin's. And I met a load of people who were studying production design and, you know, and there's my love for production design beginning. It's kind of, I love all that. And all of a sudden I got back into it and, you know, did a little evening class and then kind of started making little films and then applied to go to film school. And I got a scholarship to go from a film I made called House about bingo and the connection to the community.
Is it important to see something in a cinema? You know, what changes when you watch something in a cinema versus maybe how people may consume a lot of media now, whether it's televisions or even their phone screen? For you, is it important to see the story with people in a cinema?
I am, of course, and I would say to any filmmaker, if you're not writing while you're writing a script for a 50-foot screen, then you need to start doing it, because that's what I do from the beginning. You know, cinema's a blank canvas. And this is what you do. It's your art form. So you don't, I mean, for me, I would never think, as soon as I'm writing a script, I'm seeing it on a 50-foot screen. I'm seeing an audience sitting in front of it. Yep. You know, so every single word and line I write, I have to imagine what the audience are feeling looking up at that screen. And I do that from the moment I start writing. And it's beautiful. I remember, you know, I know people have watched Chuck Chuck Baby for certain things and, you know, on small screens, as in their phone, and it's never going to work because, and not only that, it's a film that needs an audience. You know, it's a film that needs to be seen on a huge screen to get that kind of, to go into that world. And I think from the moment you start, you know, I dress my worlds in blue overalls and it's kind of, you know, if they aren't seeing that big kind of big scale canvas that is, you know, with those beautiful colours that, you know, you write in from the beginning, then, you know, what is the point, really? I wouldn't watch anything on my phone. If I think to myself, the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, you know, what would be the point of watching it on something like that when it's made for something huge? You know, because that screen is your heart. You know, that is what is connecting to the audience. That's your heartbeat. And, you know, if you're not writing and seeing it that big, your gigantic heart, then I think it's crazy. I know people do it. I don't understand it.
So just to finish off, I have some fun, quick fire questions for you. Are they real chickens? Are they real chickens that are getting thrown around? They look so good. I'm wondering.
They're all handmade. No chicken was harmed in the making of Chuk Chuk Baby. That is very important to everybody to understand. No real chickens were used.
They just look really good. Yes. Okay.
Not even for close-ups. They were, brilliant production design team, led by Caroline Steiner, who is a vegan and just loved this film so much. She couldn't believe that she was going to have to work with chickens. So we knew we couldn't work with real chickens. So there you go.
Okay. Final thing I'm wondering about. In the entrance to the factory, there's a very cool neon sign.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you have that sign?
Sitting in my flat in London. It's on the wall.
Great.
But obviously it only goes on once a month due to the price of electricity.
Go to watch the film. Make sure to look out for that sign. Yes, Janis Pugh, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Rob. It's been lovely. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr.